Hey everyone. So in SketchUp Part 5, we're going to look at creating a sun and shade study, setting up scenes, and exporting different forms of work from SketchUp. So that includes perspective sections and exporting your scene as DWG line work to then import into AutoCAD or even Illustrator, Photoshop, anything you can really think of. So let's get started. So we have our Jacob Science Building model here, and one of the things we wanted to do with it is create a sun and shade study. And what we can do is select a perspective in which we want, and then select different times of the day to show where shadows will be in, let's say, maybe 5 parts of a day cycle. So what I'm going to do is set up the perspective. So I want this to be an isometric draft, so what I'm going to do is go up here to Camera, and Parallel Projection. This will kind of just change the way it's projected onto us here as the perspective changes into a projection. And then I'm going to go to Camera, Standard View, Camera, Standard View, ISO. So now we have an isometric drawing. And then I'm going to zoom in to the Jacob Science Building right here. And then once I find a perspective I like, I'm going to find my scenes tray right here, and then I'm going to click Add Scene. And what this will do is save it within our tray. So now that I have this perspective saved, if I, distort the perspective in any way, I can double click the scene and it'll take me right back to where we had it. So now that we have our perspective selected, we can go in here and start to add shadows at different times of the day, and then at each time of the day, save that perspective so we don't have to go back and load that certain shadow position. All we have to do is click on different times of the day and see how it changes. So what I'll do is I'll go up here to my shadows tray and then select our UTC, which is UTC -5. And then from there, I want to go to View and make sure shadows are checkmarked so that we're looking at them. And then I'm going to set this up as a 8 o'clock or 8 a.m. time. And then I'm going to make it June 18th. So now that I have my shadows and time selected, I'm going to hit the plus button to add this scene. And then I'm going to rename it June 18th, 8 a.m. You can see that it renamed it here on our tab. So then I'm going to do the same thing for, let's say, maybe 10 o'clock. Add the scene, rename it. There we go. So then I can start to see what the difference is between June 18th, 8 a.m. and June 18th, 10 a.m. Now I'm going to go ahead and save it for different parts of the day as well. So I went ahead and saved a couple of more times of the day. So we have the 8 a.m. that we saw, the 10 a.m., noon, as well as 2 p.m. So then what you can do from here to show others in a perspective format is export these as PDFs or JPEGs. So what you can do is start at each scene. So we're going to start at 8 a.m., go to File, Export, 2D Graphic, and then you can save this as June 18th, 8 a.m., and then you can export as, PDF, JPEG, and then you can hit Options and increase the quality of it as well. I would recommend turning that up and then hit export. And then you can do that for each one of these scenes to show the different times of the day, possibly on a board or through an email or whatever you need. So just a side note as well is that you can save different styles within a scene as well. So styles are essentially just how it looks. So I can go in here and choose maybe sketchy edges. I'm going to go in here and edit it a bit to make it look a little more detailed. And then I can save that. Yeah, it's asking as a new style, so create scene. And then I'm going to rename this June 18th, 12 p.m. sketchy. And then I can switch back from style to style using my scenes. So then from there, we can also save scenes in section as well. So what I'll do is go up here to View, Toolbars. Then I'm going to turn on Sections. And what this will do is bring in a Sections tab. I'm just going to put that right here. So I'm going to select this, which will add in a selection or a section plane. And let's see, I want this to go, let's cut it horizontally this way. So I'm going to name this Courtyard section. You can see that it'll cut straight through our model. And there are a couple of options with this. So if you look in our section panel, we have this option, which will not display the section cut. This section, which will show the whole model and not show the section. And this one, which toggles the fill. So to save this, what I'm going to do is go to Camera, make sure Parallel Projection is turned on, and then I'm going to go to Standard View, Left, and what it'll do is show us an exact section of where we cut through. And then from here, we can zoom in and get the camera angle we want and save the scene. And I'm going to call this Section 1. So then from there, I can switch to our from this view here, that shows the whole thing, and then this one, which shows our section. And then again, if I wanted to export this, I would just go to File, Export 2D Graphic, or a section slice. And then it should be noted as well that our scenes also get saved to the top of our window panel right here. So you can see that we have scene 1, all our different shades, the sketchy version, and then our section. So that's a little bit on how to make sections, perspectives, sun and shade studies, but there's one more thing I'd like to cover, and that's exporting some of this line work in a 3D elevation back into AutoCAD, which you can then either take it, just back to AutoCAD to edit it from there, or take it into Photoshop or Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to delete our section out for now. And then I'm going to readjust our axis. And then I'm going to set this up probably about right in here. Yeah, I like this angle. So I'm going to hit Camera, Standard View, ISO, and it'll set up an ISO from that direction I was looking at. And then I'm going to set it up around here. And then I'm going to save this scene as DWG ISO angle. And then go to File, Export 2D Graphic. And then what you can do is where it says Save as Type, save this as an AutoCAD DWG file. So once you give it a minute to export, sometimes this can take a while depending on the hardware of your computer. Once that gets done being created, what you'll notice is wherever you saved it, it will create an AutoCAD file from that angle. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And what you'll notice is that it creates an AutoCAD file from the perspective that you were just at. This can be a really interesting way to create an isometric 3D plan in Photoshop. Maybe you do a plan view. You could do section as well. I just think this is a really creative way and potentially really impactful for the future. This is something that I just figured out myself. So, please feel free to kind of play around with this and see what you can come up with. All right, so that wraps up SketchUp Part 5, where we looked at sunshade studies, scenes, and exporting your work. So I would just recommend that, you set up good perspectives because this is your work that you want to show off, so you want to make sure it's showing off the right content. And then with the export to DWG, just play around with it and see what kind of creative things you can come up with in Photoshop or Illustrator. So reach out to us if you have questions, and yeah, thanks guys.